There's a reason for the old prohibition against reporting what you hear on the police and fire scanners. Sometimes preliminary information shared among first responders ends up being untrue. They also may use words and terminology that may alarm the general public. A recent concert in Boston is a case in point. A large venue, hundreds of people, and some type of incident. Doesn't sound good.
Ambulances and emergency crews were called to assist concertgoers in medical distress.
That was the scene outside an Avicii concert at the TD Garden 2 weeks ago as Boston EMS responded to multiple calls for help.
EMS now says over 50 people were treated here at the Garden. At least 36 had to go to the hospital.
But online, it was all described as a mass casualty incident, including in tweets from 7 News and NECN. Technically, that was true. First responders use the term mass casualty incident whenever they anticipate more than a dozen people requiring treatment. But to the average person, it suggests mass carnage, which was far from the case.
There were no fatalities, and all of the patient's symptoms were minor.
Maybe a little mass confusion, but in the end, nothing to get too excited about. Yeah, this is one of these tough ones because it is an official terminology. I was trying to do some research this week about hit and run, and they're telling me there is no official terminology for hit and run, but yet it's all part of our vernacular. It's a news terminology, but they don't have it in the DOT. The state doesn't count that, doesn't have it. So it's like the media is doing the right thing in a sense by using this term, but it creates a confusion or worse, it conjures up an image of something far worse than what it is. We're sort of damned if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough one because I suppose the most responsible thing a news organization can do is use the term mass casualty incident and then explain exactly what's meant by this. But all people really, and all people really hear is mass casualty, and they go, "Oh my God!" Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a tough one.
Yeah, but we should, and I'm surprised I didn't really catch that. We should be about the business of saying what the police describe, or what EMT describes as a mass casualty situation. Having years of being a health reporter, health medicine, everybody I talked to practically was speaking another language. If I quoted them exactly as they spoke it, nobody would get what they would say. So you ask them, is that like so-and-so? And we're able to say that. So it's our responsibility to be able to make sure that the whole point is communication. So we want to make sure we get across what's clear. So I think this was a mass failure on all of our parts, by the way.
I mean, we're in this era of, what do they call it, search engine optimization, where the whole goal is to get into the headline of your item, your online item or story, certain words that will be clickbait. Then now we're even, I guess, we're
about to do a story about that.
Okay, we'll talk more about this whole monetary incentive for getting clicks, but that can lead to this slippery slope of avoiding necessary detail. And in the pressure of the McNews era, where everything is shorter and it's exacerbated by Twitter, would it have been so hard to take a few extra words and say, down at the Garden, there were multiple incidences of young people passing out, becoming nauseous. Take a few extra words to describe exactly what's going on instead of condensing everything down to a term that may be unnecessarily scary.
To their credit, I think the TV people did do that. But once again, we're talking about tweeting, and you got that 117 characters, whatever it is, and
160.
160. Okay.
140.
Okay, I'll raise you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't ever do that many. So, I mean, it's part of that. It's getting it out really quickly, too. Right. Everybody always wants to be first.
Right.
Yeah, but you could still say confusing scene. You got time enough to say that. 14 down, 3 suspected, whatever. You don't have to use that.
Yeah.
You don't. To John's point, it just becomes a shorthand that we hear and understand, and we forget that the people on the other side haven't heard it from the EMTs. They don't know what we're talking about.
I'm also not sure that the media knew until the next day that this wasn't as big a deal as it seemed.
That's true. In the immediate aftermath, it was confused.
Well, for me, the word casualty ought to be used very, very carefully, because I hear casualty. That just means dead to me.
It means Boston Marathon.
Yeah, exactly.